Hopefully this video, the audio will be right. I left my phone home yesterday, this phone, my main phone. And somebody apparently hacked into it. Don't ask me how, because it was in airplane mode, plus do not disturb. But if they've rooted it, I mean, they could turn all of that stuff off, which they may have rooted it, because the aggressor in apartment 7, the worst, I'm not saying he's the only, but he's the worst. He showed up on our bus again yesterday. It was either him or his friend. He's got a friend that looks almost exactly like him, that used to live in apartment 6 in the building next to us. He's long gone now. But every now and then he used to come and sit by the door of apartment 7 just to make trouble, so apartment 7 would say, "Oh, I wasn't there." I know what they're doing. They're troublemakers and they're racists. They're part of a racist religious group. And they're also connected to the people who assaulted me in 2020. They're friends with them. These are the same people that tried to convince the police department that my daughter and I were running and chasing after people, yelling racial epitaphs. Oh, and then I filed a fake report that they weren't following us and harassing us and recording us. It was the opposite. But when my lawyer and I requested evidence, nobody will give any. That's another example, is the prosecutor, he went after, a lot of clergymen who were innocent. But he won't protect a family that's being targeted and abused and traumatized and their rights repeatedly taken. It's disappointing. Disappointing to say the least. But apparently people are hacking my phone too while I'm gone. I just want to see if it was caught on camera. We haven't figured out how they get in the house when they do come in and take stuff or tamper with stuff, because we always have a camera on the two entrances, the two doors. So the only question is how they get in here. The attic? That's the only thing I can think of. All it is plywood. Every single apartment on the top floor has an attic, and they're separated by plywood. That's it, plywood. So, actually not even plywood, correction, paneling. So, that could be the only thing. Unless there's some secret door in the wall. That would be crazy. That would move in the territory of a felony crime. But, anyway, I had to redo the past 2 videos. The stuff that I've discussed. I guess maybe I should write out a script or a plan. But still dealing with nonsense from the VA. I requested some kind of brief counseling. Just because of all the stuff that's going on, the VA is retaliating. The employees, some employees are retaliating even more. They're holding to their policy that if you miss 2 appointments, your physical therapy is canceled, all of it. And I explained, it's getting harder for me to get around because they don't do anything. I can walk about 20 yards and then my left leg will start to get tight and my left knee will start to get numb, and then that puts all the weight on the right, which, it doesn't slip as much, but if I use it too much or I put too much weight and I don't distribute my weight evenly, it will slip. They're trying to cripple me. And my doctor said he put in a consult for a mobility cart, which is not true. There is no consult because he won't back me. He pushed me to a committee that decides if you get a mobility cart. I said I would like a mobility cart because it's getting harder to get around until something is done about my back and my knee. And some of these issues maybe they can't fix. Very difficult to fix reverse lordosis of the neck and scoliosis of the lumbar sacral. That's difficult to repair. You're talking about, long time of physical therapy, and I ask for it. All we ever deal with is the neck, which is good. And they gave me a unit that's a pain. It's a neurotransmitter that helps your brain think of other things besides pain. But still, that's fixing a symptom, not the root cause. The root cause could actually paralyze me. It seems to already be affecting my pelvis. That's what I think. But they canceled my physical therapy. They didn't offer any kind of a help to get here. I'm tired of every single option since we came to Saginaw County for help is give up your daughter, give up your daughter, give up your daughter. I'm sick of it. Oh, VA, yeah, we'll give you a ride, but you can't bring a dependent. I'm a single parent. Well, put her in daycare. Yep, she was in daycare. We got too many daycares where I didn't like what I saw. Either they weren't keeping their eyes on the kids, they were employing people that I can't see the background check, or I saw predatory behavior, or I saw a pattern of covering up events that were in their Google reviews, but when the state inspectors came to investigate any kind of complaint, it was just whitewashed. So, yeah, I don't have a good opinion about Saginaw County and daycare. We've had one good daycare. I mean, they messed up a couple of times, but overall, one good daycare in 8 years. No, I take that back, 2. But one was in a home, and I don't think she's doing it anymore. Because she was getting targeted. I don't know why, but she was getting targeted for some reason. Maybe it was her husband or something. I don't know. But they're good people. Their neighborhood is nice because they watch out for each other. But it's not that common around Saginaw County. But neighborhoods like that around here are dying. People actually barbecue together. They actually, will have, besides, sitting on the porch or hanging out in the sidewalk, they'll have a community garden. They'll actually, watch each other's houses, stuff like that. That's becoming rare. But, yeah, I mean, I've seen some neighborhoods, people sit on the porch and they talk to each other across the street. That's community building. But just because people are sitting on their porch or hanging out in the driveway, doesn't mean it's a good, tight-knit, protective, nurturing neighborhood. But, anyway, so, yeah, we have problems with daycare. And my immediate family is getting more and more aloof. They don't want to sit down and pray together and make reconciliation and, ask God forgiveness for wrongs against each other, against themselves. They don't want to do it. It's, I guess according to apostolic teaching, if they pray with people who aren't apostolic, I guess it's sinful. That's very, that sounds like what the Pharisees said. Exactly what the Pharisees said. But anyway, I've also seen that in conservative Islam, they won't say prayers with somebody who is not, a conservative Muslim, especially a Wahhabist. But, that's Wahhabi teachings right there. But, anyway. But so I'm at a problem. I'm at a deficit for daycare. Um, and anyway, so the VA is not very supportive of. I just feel that this VA, they always target people who have children. There's never children in the VA. Never. It's the most unfamily friendly atmosphere I have ever seen. The chapel is always empty. I told somebody I talked to, actually, it was the first person that I asked, some kind of brief counseling. And then the lady that called me today, that I know she's from the bus, I know her voice. Don't ask me how she got into maybe she knows the people who are using the simulator. We got a big little criminal network going on in Buena Vista Township. Big criminal network. And the police don't do anything about it. They let them use this simulator to ruin people's lives. But I know it's the lady from the bus. I call her F-Mao lady. My daughter's a big F-Mao fan, and this lady sounds like F-Mao, except she's like the F-Mao from A Nightmare. She's shrill voice. She laughs all the time. She's annoying. She's always, gets involved in other people's business on the bus. It's very annoying. And she made a statement before telling people what she does for a living, Morley. She works at a call center, Morley Group of Companies, one of the spin-offs, or directly at Morley. Like VA Health Connect here, it's not part of the original intention of VA Health Connect, that project that started in 2014. It was put on paper. 2016 it was implemented. The larger contact center / online dashboard, the entire framework was developed in 2014 and implemented in 16. But they take this, these people, they work at Morley, or they'll get hired by a subcontractor, and then they get pulled into Vet Connect, which is an entirely different organization compared to VA Health Connect. They're not the same thing. But they try to make it look like they are, but they're not. VA Health Connect are actual call centers that you talk to about different events. And they're connected to the VA offices, 827-1000. Well, now around here at least, they wire Vet Connect into it, which is Morley trained subcontractors. And some of them are very bad people. Everybody knows my opinion about the evil at Morley that's ignored. There's a lot of bad people there that I've worked with, and people just protect them. They work directly at the VA, some of these people, side by side. The MSAs, medical support associates, they have no medical training whatsoever. And a matter of fact, they weaponize the DBRS system to flag people like me, because we complain and we know our rights. And if you go into my medical record with the VA, you'll find 75% of the complaints against me, besides 3 providers, I've challenged them on how they treated me, and I've challenged them on their diagnosis, asking for scientific evidence. And so they retaliated immediately. And one of them is an LPN. Because I told her, I'm going to review this. And so she said that I threatened her. So, they, 75% of the complaints to flag me are from MSAs or AMSAs. One AMSA in particular seems to be gathering complaints against me to put in the system. You see her name on, I would say, at least a quarter of these complaints. These people have no connection to military service whatsoever. None of them. They're just stepping on the neck of veterans earning a living. And I'm not going to go into this inconsistencies I've found with people's licensing backgrounds. But there's 3 providers there that have a very questionable licensing background, and they're taking advantage of the border state licensing program. So there's very little investigation done on the bordering states of where the state where your license is actually issued from. Very little investigation, almost none. They just reciprocal, but they don't do the background check that should be done with an initial licensing. They don't do it for the border program. And so people are falling through the cracks who are predators, who have their license has been suspended or revoked, and people that don't have residencies in the U.S. have found these holes in the cracks. And some of them they invert their first name and their middle name so they can have 2 different practices. That way, one, they have absolutely no accountability whatsoever. And then I've found other doctors that when they go into the clinic at the VA, they will give you a fake name. That way they can do whatever they want because the cameras are on, despite people saying, oh, there's no cameras here. Yes, there are. There are in all federal buildings. I wasn't born yesterday. And, especially when you look up and you see that little tiny 4-inch dome that has, tint around the plastic of the dome, that's a camera. But this one doctor calls herself Petrakis, which is the same name that was used today when I talked to this person who's supposedly from the VA, and told me that, they don't do brief therapy, they don't do family therapy, which may or may not be true, but I know I had brief therapy from a lady about 5 years ago. And she's like, but we can help you. Do you have combat experience? Have you been in combat? What does that have to do with anything? I'll tell you what it has to do with anything. I'll tell myself. PTSD. That way they can approach you with that. Weaponize everything. That's all they do at Saginaw VA. Weaponize everything. And then, can't forget the fact that every single one of my DBQ now is being zeroed out. Since 2 days ago, all of them zeroed out. So evidently somebody here has a connection with the Wisconsin Intake Center, and they're tanking my claim. But, the fact of the matter is they just requested my medical service record, but according to the National Archive, they can't find anything. Somebody apparently the past 8 years has retaliated and they've destroyed my records. The service record I have right now is a reconstruct. It's mostly naval operations paperwork. Any DD form is gone. Vast majority of them, they're gone. Somebody destroyed my service record, which was in Millington, Tennessee for the past 25 years. So, that's pretty crazy. There's a lot of people who are connected to the various religious groups around here, even some of the ones my family's involved in, that have connections to Tennessee. My brother has family there too, his real family. I mean, actually his dad's real family. But they have nothing to do with the military though. But pretty shocked. I've known at least 3 people that worked there. How could this happen to me? I've known 3 people in my military career that worked in Millington. NAB PERSCOM. PS's 3. But, I guess a little record's better than none. But it's pretty systemic, the targeting of myself. And, there's always money behind a lot of it. Investing here, a new truck here, Oh, here, we're going to help fill this shelf here. Oh, here, we'll give you some free weed. Oh, here, yeah, we'll help pay your rent. Always traces back to the company. But I stand by what I did. They kept corruption on the contract. There were people there, they don't care about their country. They just wanted to get rich. They wanted to mistreat women. I stand by what I did. And some of them were racially preferent. That has no place in this country. And sometimes I don't like how they treated our co-workers from from um, from India and I can't forget now, and Bhutan and I can't believe I forget the name of the country now. Anyway, um, throwing 4 or 5 guys into a room, stuff like that. I didn't agree with that. And some of these guys, being told that they expect to come to the U.S. It's not as easy. It's not as easy as it sounds. But, there are people, even contractors, who stand by their word. They're like, you know what, you helped us so much in theater. We're going to help you come to the States. There are contractors like that. And there's military service members like that too. Some of their guides or some of their translators, they get them to the States. Because that's what allies do. They help each other. They protect each other. That's why they're allies. But anyway, so this, lady tried to say they don't do brief therapy, and she used the same name as one of the doctors from Urgent Care, which is a hogwash name, because they think they're being recorded, and sometimes they are. I do randomly record, but I can always tell when I'm on a simulator too, because it's crisp, clear, and you're speaking through a larger microphone, because it's a laptop. And until the police in Saginaw County do something about this, they did at Vassar. Vassar is arresting people who are interfering, plugging into people's wiring for their phone or for their cable. They're arresting people who are using simulators. They're arresting them and prosecuting them. Why aren't you, Saginaw? Because it's definitely not cops doing it. It may be their friend and their family. They're not law enforcement. Matter of fact, they're not even investigative agencies. Many of these people, they're nothing but common criminals. Good for you, Vassar. Keep going. Show the rest of the state what they need to be doing. Good for you, Vassar. Go out there and keep finding those people interfering with communication, and keep doing your part and monitoring the people who are simulating people by simulating them and finding all kinds of predators. But anyway, so so if anything happens to myself, medical problem, or even a nervous breakdown, blame it on the Saginaw VA. The repeated pattern of retaliation and derailing my medical care, and having, blood tests they do, they make sure that they try to, when they give the results, they change the normal format, and they try to do things like positive, negative, instead of showing range and showing real data, or they'll contract with labs that disenfranchise and hurt veterans. And they say, well, hey, they got a VA contract. I hope their contract gets terminated. The VA should not have a contract with a lab that sets vets up to fail by having ranges that are artificially inflated. especially when they sign on to lawsuits against the FDA saying the FDA doesn't have the right to manage and to how would we put it, to manage and to organize and to approve proprietary blood testing or proprietary blood testing labs or proprietary blood testing ranges. They don't have the right. Anyway, they do. So does the CDC. So does NIH. Certainly not a private company. You know what? In the world of Atlas Shrugged, that lab, definitely not approached by John Galt. Definitely not. But, so if anything happens to us, and the VA does do brief therapy, because I saw a lady about 3 or 4 times, 5 or 6 years ago for brief therapy. Brief therapy is when you sometimes it's venting, other times it's to realign your framework in your mind, realign your approach to something, so that you can what we call reframing. I'm not a clinician. I'm a researcher, but I have a lot of clinician training. You reframe it. Like if you're having a problem with somebody, okay, find the positive part. Find what we call the exception, and then reframe it, focusing on that exception, and thereby realigning that relationship. Yeah, I should be studying for my PhD, probably in marriage and family therapy, because I would find it the most enjoyable. But because of Hud Vash and that retaliatory caseworker, I had to drop out of grad school. Right when I finished my third and last third and last master's, which was in divinity, I should have been stepping into a PhD or PsyD program somewhere that exact time. But because of what she did, I went into debt and delinquencies, so I had to drop out of school because I couldn't get my loans approved anymore. And when I asked the VA, I said, why don't you have her step up and be the reference or the co-signer for the loans? She doesn't have to be responsible for them, but she could certainly co-sign for a year or two until we get this fixed. Nothing. They ignore me. Just like they ignore when one of the case workers gave a turkey that was supposed to be for my family in 2020. He gave it to a family who's friends with the people who assaulted me. And he writes it off as him, supporting black veterans and black businesses. Is it a business to punch somebody in the face? Is it a business to create racial tension in a country that we're supposed to have moved past that? We're supposed to be equal now. But nothing happened to him either. But the Saginaw VA is a horrible place. They have done so much to my family. They've even weaponized our voucher. They've participated in keeping us imprisoned here. We have 2 choices: stay here imprisoned and poor, or become homeless and do a reset. It's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Again, involving trying to force me to give up my daughter. So many bad people around. But it's not like she's going to be rescued. Because again, the people around here are bad people. Once she's somewhere else, they're going to rip her family, the rest of her life apart, and her family will already be ripped apart. Then people will target me even more aggressively. There's something wrong with this town, especially with the Saginaw Lieutenant Alita Lutz VA Medical Center.